Hello and welcome to the J Show. This is James speaking from Jimmerish FM. This particular J Show I just wanted to introduce because the audio is taken from a webathon I held, which was basically where I podcasted for 12 hours straight to raise some awareness of one of my film projects. And a few people came along and we had interesting conversations, and I did actually record a backup of the conversations, and I felt it would be cool to put them up on Jimmerish FM as a podcast. So there will be a couple of these shows, but this one is with children's author Briony Stewart, who's very talented. Make sure you check the show notes for a link to her website and check out some of her art and buy some of her books. She's really cool. Enjoy this episode of the J Show and just fall in love with all the webathon references, which are totally out of date because this happened many years ago. Okay, thank you. Enjoy.
Just, if anyone is listening, maybe nobody is, but if anyone is listening, I actually live 2 streets down from James, coincidentally. So I'm there writing most of the time, and he's here writing.
Yeah.
And we actually don't even see each other.
Lost connection.
We're just
a reboot.
We're just like most writers, just working in our spaces. Even though we're like only 2 streets apart, we don't really get together and talk about our writing or anything.
Well, you've been on my radio station, Jimmerish FM, once before. We recorded a podcast.
That's right.
Some time ago.
But you've been working on this web series now since then.
Yep.
So you've written it?
No. I mean, I've written a treatment.
Yeah. So
I shot like a pilot.
But you're writing and directing this.
Yep.
This series. They say I have a loud voice, so watch out.
Yep. Writing, directing. I guess if I win, I would have to find a producer.
Yep.
My friends who won it last year, they actually hired directors to direct, but they were acting in it, so they wanted to concentrate on acting. Probably won't be in it, so I can probably just concentrate on directing. But I need to get a producer to that. I mean, that's if we win, I need to get a producer to help me out and that kind of stuff. Organising, because I want to focus on directing rather than.
Well, you do
producing.
quite a few things. I mean, you write and direct, but you also are very focused on cinematography as well. You do a lot of sort of camera stuff.
Yeah, I mean, see,
shots.
like I said, I don't mind. If this doesn't go through, I'm probably going to make my next short film filmed on my iPhone. So I'm in the extreme. Like, it either should be insanely awesome, like the
Michael
Final
Bay.
Summer. Well, I don't have his budget, but I do have. If you watch the Final Summer trailer that we're voting for here, you can see a lot of work went into the cinematography and stuff like that, which some people might not appreciate, but that's important. Or I go the other end and I'm like filming it on the cheapest, crappiest iPhone possible.
Yep.
Well, not the crappiest iPhone possible, but
because iPhones are.
I've already done that.
Ever.
You can go to jimmerish.com, look at Spies. I shot that on 3GS with a scratched lens.
I saw Spies.
Yeah.
That was quite funny.
But that was all improv, so I actually had to make up the story in editing because there was no storyline. That was purely improvised, and I had to try and create something. It was kind of a challenge, but then it goes for like 12 minutes because I have to build up this story that I don't think anyone even understands anyway. Now, I just want to put your name up so people know who you are. Edit shot. And we should properly introduce you. Oops, wrong keyboard, too many computers. Hopefully I spell it right.
Spell my name right, do you mean?
I know how to spell your last name because it's my middle name.
You should know how to spell my first name by now, James. I mean...
Yeah, but I freak out, and sometimes
years.
Do you ever look at something too long and then it changes, and then you're like, wait, how did I spell that?
Only when there are things that have like I before E or E before I.
Now we're going back to Batman. Stay tuned, listeners.
I think you'd rather be playing Batman than talking to me.
Not really. It's weird because I have to commentate while I'm playing, and I'm not very good at multitasking. Do you know what I mean? It's weird saying, oh, I'm going to do this, listen in. I mean, I watch a lot of videos like that, but I'm not good. Maybe if I had someone here to talk to about what's happening on screen. But, yes. No. I will post you up, and then we'll formally introduce you. Update. No, so slow. What have you been up to today? Maybe we can talk about small things. Anything interesting?
Today, well, no, I mean, technically today's Monday, so it's meant to be the first day of my working week, but I was not actually doing much writing or illustrating.
Are you an award-winning children's author? Should I introduce you like that? I'm sure you've won some awards.
You can.
For books.
I have won a national award.
There you go. That's all you need, one.
Book. Yeah, I suppose then you can be award-winning.
Children's author or just author?
No, I like to be classed as a children's author. I'm happy to be that. Although I always find it difficult because, you know, you say author and then people just assume that you only write, but I write and illustrate. So sometimes I just say artist because I don't know how to sort of, people kind of doing one or the other generally. But you can call me whatever you want, James.
Call me Misty. What's that movie called?
Misty.
The Clint Eastwood one? I don't Let's tag so many things.
I see what you mean about multitasking.
I'm terrible at it. Okay. We are live on the air with Briony Stewart. Briony Stewart is an award-winning children's author. How are you doing, Briony?
I'm doing well, thank you, James.
From Perth, Western Australia.
Proudly
a
from
local
Perth.
girl.
Yep.
If you're listening from Perth, I guess.
Yep.
Is that? Do you have a business card that says award-winning children's author, and you walk around and you're like, hey?
It doesn't say award-winning. It just says children's author.
But you do have a business card.
Oh yeah, I have a business card. I didn't bring it with me.
Yeah.
No. But yes, and actually maybe I can officially do it here on, online.
Yeah.
I can actually launch my website now because we just made it go live.
Oh really?
Just recently.
What is it? Pitch it.
It's www.brionystuart.com.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Launch it.
Yeah. So that I just did.
Well, that's what I thought.
It's officially launched now.
You said you didn't want to show anything, and we could be showing off your website. I don't know if the cable's going to work.
It's fine. It's fine. We don't need to actually bring it up.
We should do. Just hold on a sec. I'm going to find a cable so we can. Just keep talking.
Keep talking.
Yeah. What did you do on the weekend?
What did I do on the week? Well, as you very well know, see, James, for anyone listening, James is a very old friend. So before I was an award-winning children's author and illustrator, we were just a couple of nerds at high school, Perth Mod, and we had our 10-year high school reunion on the weekend. And yeah, it's one of those things. I think high school reunions, people can be really weird about them, a bit funny. They have a few bad memories about high school or whatever, but I really liked it. We went along, actually. It was a pretty fun night. It was actually really nice to see heaps of people, even people that, I never really even spoke to before. It was actually kind of nice because back in high school, you couldn't just talk to somebody because whenever you talked to somebody, it meant something, Like, ooh, why is that person talking to that person, Yeah. But now you can just talk to somebody and it doesn't mean anything. You just, you're just talking, you're just having a chat and, and I think the fact that you did know people when they were younger makes you a little bit more curious about their life. I'm more curious about, people I didn't talk to in high school than I am about the people, like the person sitting next to me on the train who starts a conversation, So it was nice. It was nice to listen to old tunes of our era. And to hang out with some old faces and, people that you used to see a lot in high school that you'd sort of lost touch with. And
did anyone know you were a book author? I mean, everyone was like, oh, Brian's going to be a writer one day, but everyone was like, hey, I'll read your book. No?
No, some people knew that I was writing. A lot of people from high school still haven't got my book. But that's okay because they're kids' books, and I guess a lot of them think, oh, I'll get...
You should have been pushing it because some of them are having kids now. Should be like, hey, you should check out my books.
Yeah.
Find it at your local. Where do you buy your books?
Pretty much everywhere.
Can you buy them online?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can
Amazon?
buy them. Yeah, I think they're on Amazon, but I think the best place to get them from is from UQP. They're my publisher. University of Queensland Press, and you can buy them online through them. But
yeah, I've seen that.
I think you can even buy them through the Penguin website, because Penguin actually is the distributor for UQP.
Yeah.
So you can get them. I mean, I buy a lot of stuff online, but you can also buy them like in actual bookstores as well, which is cool. But sometimes, because there's a trilogy, sometimes they don't have the whole trilogy.
There where they've only had 2 of the 3 or something like that.
Yeah, so, you kind of run the risk of not being able to get all of them if you go into a store.
You need just a collector's pack that has 3 in a sleeve or something, a special sleeve.
Well, one day when, it's a classic, it'll come in nice hardback, all 3 in one hardback, edition. Specially signed in gold and printed on the front with my name, but we'll keep working towards that day, I think.
When was your last book out? It was only a few months ago. I lost track of time.
Yeah, so the third book was the end of the trilogy. It was the Kamiko and the Dragon series, and that came out just in, I think it was September. It wasn't that long ago. I can't even remember the date. No, maybe it was August. But, so that kind of is out of the way. But it's always weird when you launch a book, because it's always kind of like quite well after you actually finished it.
Yeah.
So I've actually even finished the next book, which hasn't actually come out yet. It's a picture book called The Red Wheelbarrow, which is going to be out sort of early next year. And I'm already on to the book after that. So you kind of, when you do launch
that's already
them,
in the pipeline. So you abandon it, it gets taken care of other people.
The fourth book's already done.
For the Dragon series?
No. This is a new one.
In your bibliography, is that what they call it?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. And, so I'm actually working on my fifth book now, which is exciting. And this one's kind of a lot more challenging, because it's my first sort of proper novel. It's for young adults, so it's for teenagers. For much older people, it's basically as close to sort of writing for adults as I'm going to get for a while, until I try doing that. So, it's
lots
been
of sex and violence.
A little bit more swearing, but it's got 15-year-old boys, so it's just more kind of crudeness and crassness and penises and vaginas and things like that. So it's been quite fun, because it's been a real change from the Kamiko books, which were, I loved writing them, but they're very sort of fairy tale, fantasy, innocent, and pretty sort of books. Whereas, this one I get to kind of explore that darker, sort of edgier, kind of rude, crude, rough and ready side of things.
Like magic involved?
No, this one's all realist drama. It's kind of loosely based in Fremantle. It's about a couple of like graffiti kids that are just kind of knocking about, and kind of some of the stuff they...
Fremantle graffiti kids.
Yeah,
tagging.
Those dodgy kids. No, it's just an interesting look at graffiti culture, and sort of, where that sort of line is between art and, and crime, I guess, and, and also how that relates to young people growing up. Because, they've actually passed laws here in WA that make it like illegal for teenagers, to buy markers of a certain size, to buy spray paint, to even carry markers around. So if they've, intercepted by police and they've got, a marker in their bag or whatever, they can actually get into trouble for it, because they're actually legally not supposed to have it. So it's really, it's kind of a little bit stupidly criminalised at the moment here in WA, and they think it's going to make a difference. But, I mean, in all reality, the people that are doing that kind of vandalism just steal the stuff that they use anyway. So, doesn't matter if they're not allowed to buy it, because they never bought it in the first place.
What research do you do? Is there any research, or you just make it up as you go along?
A little bit of both. I mean...
Is your brother, you have a younger brother, does he a tagger? Was that your brother serving drinks?
Yeah, that was my brother.
Oh my God.
I know, he's really big now. He's actually 15 this year. So it's actually been interesting, because even though the book was conceived years ago, and I haven't been working on it till now, so it's interesting that he is the exact age of the characters that I've been writing about, and it's kind of been nice. I don't know if he's listening, but it's been nice that he's my friend on Facebook, so I can actually read all of his conversations conversations with his friends and Facebook stalk them for lingo and stuff. But no, I also, when I think of the school that this book is set in, it's set at Perth Mod. It's set where I went to school, and I definitely know there were a lot of characters in our year that, even though it's kind of perceived to be this really kind of nice, good inner city school, there were some pretty rough characters, and I definitely remember a lot of the conversations that happened behind me in human biology and stuff. So I, have put that into the book, and so it's a bit of research, a bit of imagination, and I had a very, very brief stint at doing some street art, very brief, like a couple of weeks, when I was at uni. I was always coming from the arty side because I was at art school, and so I was doing some kind of stencils and stuff. But, it's just something I really am interested in, because there's some aspects of graffiti art, street art that I love, and I find really interesting, really have, great styles and things like that. And then there's some that I really hate because it just looks crap, and I'm just like, what is that? That's gross. I don't want to look at that. So it's, it's just interesting for me as an artist as well.
So is it illustrated?
No, it's not illustrated. So this is my first non-illustrated. It's purely writing.
Briony is an amazing illustrator. Crazy good. I assume she's... I'm trying to put up her website. I'm going to go there now, see what happens. And I'm assuming this is a website, and I assume this is all her own illustrations for it?
Yes.
Yes. And this is from your publisher, or this is your own private project?
Yeah, this is my own project. I wanted to put together a site that had lots of things about, my writing and illustration, and something that I could, also, I'm attempting to keep a blog, but I think it will always be, quite a while in between posts. But,
this is BrionyStewart.com.
It's nice to have something.
What's going live today?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's cute, isn't it? Alex, who's actually an awesome musician, but sometimes he does a few nice web things for friends, and he helped me put that together, and he's very clever.
Awesome. So what's this? Is there anything I should be taking a tour of? Illustration, writing about? It's very simple.
Yeah, well, I think, if you go into it, you can go to the illustration section.
I see you put illustrating first. Is that just alphabetical order, or you prefer that to be your first point?
Well, actually, I drew the picture first. I had the white bird, I had the black bird. I thought the black bird was more of a writing bird, and the white one was illustrating. So it just was put that way. But yeah.
And so you've imported your old blogs stuff.
I have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Have. So yeah, there's things people can look at, and it will grow hopefully as the books and projects grow. It's just nice to sort of have somewhere to have a little gallery of past things that you've done, and because I sort of find that when you live in WA and you sort of write and illustrate, you end up doing all kinds of crazy projects. I've done weird installations in the city, and it's quite easy when you're involved in the arts here, because it's quite a small but very intense and creative scene. You kind of end up doing all kinds of weird and wonderful things. So yeah, it's good.
This is the first book in the series, Kamiko and the Dragon. Have you blogged about your German version?
No.
People got to see that.
Actually, yeah, I need to put up the picture of that too. So this is very new, so there's still a lot of stuff I need to put up on the site. But yeah, that was really cool. They did a German version of the book. They had a different illustrator because they wanted it in colour, and they also wanted a sort of more contemporary style, which was actually really cool.
I think if they saw your illustrations in colour, they would probably be like, yeah, that's fine.
Maybe, but I think they wanted it, and they didn't want to have to try and do the communicating sort of cross country in a different language, so they just used an in-house illustrator. But no, I quite liked what they had done. It's always interesting, I think, to see how people interpret your ideas, and I guess you'd probably have that with actors when they act in your things, James. Sometimes they might interpret or do things in a way that you haven't anticipated, but yeah. Sometimes you like it.
So what did you thought? What do you thought? This is the German version, and what was your thoughts on the interpretation?
That one wasn't the German version. That's just
Yeah.
the second one.
Sorry, this is
Oh, what was my thoughts? Yeah, I liked it. There were a lot of really cute aspects. I liked how they did the dragons. They'd really actually read the book because they included a lot of the details, the dragons and things. I didn't like that they made it in a contemporary setting because it didn't look like it was set in Japan, and the book is actually set in Japan. And it was dedicated to my grandmother who's from Japan, but overall I liked it, and I think it would appeal to kids, which is always, I guess, what you want. So yeah, all round.
Put a hit counter on there, just waiting for the hits to tick over.
To see how many people are listening.
Warwick Davis, yeah. Well, you got to tweet more about it. You got to be like, you're not listening, call in.
About my site, or about the web series?
No, about what we're doing now.
Yeah, well, I don't tweet.
Oh, well, Facebook.
But we sent a message.
Yeah, well, you got to say, get into it. I should like your message.
Get into it. Oh, look, somebody else liked my status. There you
Awesome,
go.
There we go.
Someone liked it. Sam, she's another illustrator, WA illustrator. She's very cool.
Awesome. Hello, Sam.
Sam, if you're listening, you're cool.
And what does she do? Like, does she look for authors to illustrate, or does she just illustrate anything she wants?
Actually, she's a bit like me. She does both. She writes as well as illustrates. I think she'd like to illustrate her own stuff, but I think you're always open to working with people as well. So, I think she would also have other illustrators illustrate her stuff, and vice versa. She'd love to illustrate other people's books as well. But she's currently also doing really cool stuff with the State Library in Perth at the moment. So if you go in there in the kids section and it's all cool, that's Sam.
What do you mean cool?
Just, like they're having some more cool initiatives. Like they had that Mr. Squiggle exhibition like a couple of years ago. That was Sam. She got that happening. That was really cool.
All right.
Like the actual Mr. Squiggle puppet was there. And
oh, really?
Yeah, it was really cool.
Was there like a puppeteer, or was it just like a touring?
No, I mean, it had photos, but there was all kinds of other things going on there, and heaps of stuff about Mr. Squiggle that I didn't.
What's the puppetry scene in Perth like? Do you know?
It's pretty much all concentrated to the Spare Parts Puppet Theatre, but it's actually pretty big. Like, they're in the Guinness World Book of Records for having like the most types of puppets anywhere in the world.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool.
Awesome.
Perth's just like that, People don't know that, but there's always so many cool little awesome things.
Yeah, Wilson was saying that he, like the Canadian Wilson, who you've probably heard on Jimmerish Fan before, he was saying that this is the first city with under 2 million people he's been to that actually has a public transport system.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things we take for granted here that, we could be in Afghanistan getting our heads blown off,
Oh, yeah, look,
Then sometimes I wonder if those people appreciate life more because they're like living on the edge.
Yeah, probably. I think there's a lot of whingy people in Perth. They don't know how good they've got it. Even the artists have to say like, "Oh, no, we're not in Melbourne." But I'm really happy to be in Perth and working in Perth. I really like it, and anywhere is just a plane ride away anyway. So I do go over east sometimes, but I definitely like having Perth as my home, my base where I work, and there's a lot of great things about being a.
So what are some of the places that writing's taken you in the past?
Well, mostly just around Australia so far, and that's actually cool because I always hoped that because I did a lot of international travel while I was at uni and younger and stuff, but I always hoped that writing would take me around actually seeing my own country. So, I've been to the Melbourne Writers Festival, and I've done workshops in the Brisbane State Library. I was up in the Kimberley this year, which is really exciting because I've never been that far north in Australia, and to be that far north in WA, I didn't really realise WA was like that, and so, we were in Kununurra, we went to Wyndham, and we also caught a small plane, this little 5-seater plane out to an Indigenous school in Columbaroo. It's like one of the most isolated areas. It's cut off for 6 months of a year in the wet season, and it was really, really nice to work with the kids there and to talk about books and show them things. And Yeah, so it's been exciting, and next year I'm off to the UK with writing. I'm going to be doing some stuff with the Edinburgh
How do you
Writers
get to
Festival
why? How did that come about? What's that all about?
Well, I always wanted to go to the UK to do some work there and to see the festival, and also maybe to get across to Italy. They have the Bologna Book Fair, which is the biggest children's book fair in the world. And then recently I won this thing that was run by the British Council.
Yeah.
And they look for emerging artists around Australia who want to go and do some work in the UK. And yeah, it's kind of a bit of a competition, and I got selected as one of the 5 people that they picked, and so that's been really great. So they're sort of sending me there next year to do all the stuff that I wanted to do.
So what is a book fair? Do you set up a stall there?
Book fair. Well, other people set up stalls there.
Right.
I mean, some fairs are different, but so Bologna, for instance, will have all these stalls with all these either organisations like Squibby, which is the Society for Children's Book Writers and Illustrators, or like the Children's Book Council of Australia might try to have a stand to show what they do, how they promote children's literature. And also publishers will have stands there because they want to promote their books. But everyone's also sort of there to meet other people. Like I'm sure publishers are there to meet, potential authors or illustrators they could get to do stuff with, or, they like to see what other publishers are doing, and they always have exhibitions on of children's illustrators. So, I might see some amazing illustrator and be like, oh, holy crap, I've got to get this illustrator to illustrate my next book or whatever. So it's a place where you can actually meet people who are doing really cool stuff in that industry. And, usually there's some presentations happening. I'm going to go to a conference run by IBI, which is like an international organisation for youth literature, and it's happening in London in 2012. And Sean Tan's going to be talking there along with Oliver Jeffers and a whole bunch of other people. But it was kind of nice because, obviously Sean Tan coming from WA is exciting. So, I'll be there.
Have you met him before?
Supporting. Yeah, I've met Sean Tan before. We're not like buddies. He doesn't come around to my house.
Tell us about him. What's he like? What does he do?
Well, he's a quiet kind of a guy. He seems quite modest. I mean, by all accounts from other people, he's just a super lovely, super modest guy. And it's kind of sad because he's sort of 10 years our senior, and so he kind of hung out with a lot of the authors and illustrators that I hang out with now in WA, but just as I released my first book, he just moved to Melbourne because he got some really good opportunities to do concept art for Pixar, so he sort of went off there. But, he's very supportive of WA authors and illustrators. Campbell, who's a friend of ours, who's an amazing illustrator, he wrote him a letter of support for funding, and he's sent me a couple of emails in the past, and it's just nice that he's there and he supports younger authors and illustrators as they develop, even though he's now he's massive. I mean, a lot of people still don't know who Sean Tan is, which is kind of terrible, but he won an Oscar, and he won the Astrid Lindgren Prize, which is the richest children's literature prize in the world. It's something like $900,000. It's almost $1 million. It's massive.
Who gives that money away?
Like Switzerland or something. Or, I don't know, one of these European countries that are crazy about their arts. So he's a very talented, just Australian author and illustrator. But he grew up here in WA. He went to UWA. He did writing and illustration. So he's a bit of an influence, I could say.
So what's the community like in Perth for children's authors? Is there a community?
There is a community. It's a really, really good one, actually. It's really strong. I'm part of a group called the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators. They have chapters sort of all over the world, but there's a really strong WA branch, and they're really cool, and we organise sort of various get-togethers and things over the year.
Do you have to wear your skins?
Our skins?
Yeah, like a jacket with your chapter markings all over it and stuff like that?
No, not yet. Sometimes we have a shirt, like a Squibby shirt, when we have our Rottnest Island retreat in mid-year, but Yeah, no, they're really good, and there's a lot of people like Franée Lassac, who's originally from America, who lives here, and she has published a lot of books, and so there's a lot of really seasoned and experienced authors and illustrators that are, they're alongside people who are just aspiring to be published. They haven't been published yet, and it's a really supportive group. They always share information. They're always really supportive of people doing things, and I think that's a nice thing about living in a kind of a smaller city, I guess, that's a bit isolated from the rest of Australia, is that you have this kind of very supportive community. It's not too cutthroat.
What are the retreats like? Are they like sex, drugs, rock and roll?
There's rock and roll, but it's kind of like a whole bunch of kids. I have this kind of theory about children's authors and illustrators, that they're just pretty much big kids that I mean, for me, I don't feel like I can write books for adults, because up until recently I didn't feel like I had much adult life experience, which was true. But also I'm just a big kid. I mean, I like watching cartoons, and I like eating more chocolate than I probably should, and I like being silly and not serious. So yeah, we'll just be drawing pictures and drawing on each other, and just being silly, listening to music, and yeah.
Every year on Easter Sunday, Briony organises an egg rolling event. And I think if you go to my YouTube channel, the guy called Tom actually broadcasted it last year. I think it's somewhere there, somewhere you can check out my dodgy iPhone photography of the event.
Yes, somehow that event's been going for like 10 years now.
That's just one of her many different, things she, organises. She has a huge Harry Potter party each year, don't you? Or just when the movies or books come out?
Just at like a significant times. I think we had our last one. Cause
it's going to stop doing it now they don't have movies or books coming out?
No, that was the last one.
Really?
I went all out for that one. That was the last movie. There's no more books, no more movies, that's it. No more.
You don't want to have a reunion and reminisce?
No.
You're over Harry Potter?
Not unless there's some new book or new edition. I mean, other than that, it's done.
Come on, JK. Are you listening?
She
this
totally
is your bribe?
is listening.
Yeah.
She's totally listening right now.
Yeah.
She's been following me for a while. I think she's a bit jealous, but hey, I'm a huge fan, so she doesn't need to be jealous.
No worries.
We got to catch up in Edinburgh,
Probably.
Yeah.
You should. Are you going to stalk her while you're there? Is she going to be at any of these events that you...
If she's going to an event, I'm there.
Yeah. Do you actually, Google videos of her speaking? Or?
No, I'm not that much of a crazy fan.
No, but you might want to... That's what she's actually like to speak to.
I do really like the books, and I think, they're just fun, and I do wish that I went to Hogwarts like heaps of people.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. But, as a series, I think, it had to end at some point, and so...
In the last movie, I was told that the aging of the characters was not quite authentic or something like that.
Well, I think it
took you out of the story.
Actually, this is interesting because you're a cinema person. Don't you think that that's the one thing that they still haven't really got that well? I mean, maybe Benjamin Button might be the best example of it so far, but aging people in film still looks kind of crap. And you'd imagine that it would be better by now, but it's actually not.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's not surprising that it looked pretty shit.
I mean, I have seen some good examples, but they're not going for the full-on grey thing. They're just trying to make them look more drained and older, like they've had more years under the belt. I know they did that. I think that with Requiem for a Dream, the mother who gets hooked on speed or whatever. If you saw the actress in real life, you wouldn't even recognise her because she looks young. Well, she's probably old now, but back then she didn't. And I'm forgetting an example similar like that where people were going for... But they went off in a tangent. They didn't go for special effects or anything like that, Did they use special effects?
It was all right in that movie about Edith Piaf's life. What's that actress? She won an Oscar for playing her, but... I thought that was... that...
Kotame?
That's right.
Something like that.
I thought that was done pretty well, but, on the whole, I mean, trying to get, 18-year-olds to look 45... It's a bit hard.
I wanted to dye my hair grey once, but apparently you have to bleach the crap out of it till your hair's like white, and then you put this. They have an ash hair dye to put in, but you have to your hair has to be white before and then they said, oh, your hair will probably die before you get it bleached enough for it to work. I don't know.
Damn. So you're just gonna have to do it the old-fashioned way and just live really hard.
What if I don't live that long?
Or you don't have to live that long. You just have to live a really hard life. I mean, have you thought about going on drugs or just getting really stressed
I gotta get a job
about
in the mines.
stuff?
That's what I do.
Maybe you just need a really high pressure corporate job so you can just be like freaking out.
Well,
all the
I mean,
time.
directing is high pressure. Like, I'm sure if I actually got a job where I was being paid to direct, I would go great like that.
Well, hopefully some people are listening.
So voteforsummer.com.
Web series, so James can stress out and get old before his time and have that grey hair he longs for. The grey hair look.
Definitely.
Be a silver fox. Do you think you'll pull?
I don't think your update went through that we're live.
What? Yeah, look, I've got two people like my status, and somebody's commented on my status.
Oh, what are they saying? Interact. Porn.
What? No.
No, Google Plus people are posting porn.
I don't know.
Oh, is that going to stay out for?
Somebody said Sweden. Oh, skin sounds like a great idea, and a squibby tattoo. Cool ideas, Norman.
Voteforsummer.com.
Now, Norman is also an excellent writer, WA writer. He actually released probably one of the only awesome books about Rottnest Island. It's a fictional book with a boy that, like, does cool stuff on Rottnest Island. It's called Jack's Island. And we've been trying to start a campaign because the Rottnest General Store doesn't have his book there. Now, don't you think every kid who's a tourist going to Rottnest Island wants to read a Huckleberry Finn adventure set on Rottnest Island?
I want to read it.
I mean, what the hell, Rottnest Island General Store? How many books do you have for kids about Rottnest Island? I don't know. Maybe. I think there's a Rottnest Island Port Authority.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I love Rottnest Island. I just think if I was a kid and there was a book like that I could have had on
and
my
if I was
holidays.
an island, I want a book about me in my store that houses what? I don't know where I'm going with that.
But, you know, it's cool. It's like, I think his dad actually grew up on Rottnest Island because you know how there's like a handful of kids that actually live on Rottnest Island? I always wonder about what their life is like. But this was back in sort of the old days.
I used to wonder about that as well.
And it must have actually been a little bit like Huckleberry Finn, like island life, just a very small class of kids and, you know, long summers.
Well, that was a bit like Ship Shaw was kind of trying to capture that a bit. I mean, that was sort of... It was filmed on Garden Island, but what was it called? Cersei Island or something?
Yeah.
I can't remember what it was.
Now, why isn't Michael Looney, who also lives across the road from us, from Ship to Shore, why isn't he in here? You should be interviewing him.
I haven't seen him around to get him on. I went to his son's 21st and I was drunkenly arguing with him for him to re-release his cash converter ads on YouTube and they'll get massive hits, but he was like, he said he's like burnt every last copy of them and so they will never go out. I'm like, damn it. So then I was trying to talk his, you know, because I know his brother and his son and daughter, and I tried to said, surely there's a copy around your house somewhere, you got to find them and give it to me and I'll put them on YouTube. Do you remember them? He was like, it was an advert for like jewelry at cash converters, and he just, at the end of that, he just like does this Ali G shot where he's like spins around with all his bling and it's just like, yo.
Oh, I think I do remember but he was beaten. He was beaten by the Happy Hocker. I mean, cash converters should have got her because like everybody knows the Happy Hocker.
Yeah.
We go, oh, the Happy Hocker. You know.
Well, I think this was post the Happy Hawker era. This was like trying to get back to the roots, but I only saw the ad like once or twice and it blew my mind. Just I don't know what they were trying to do, but I think it was obviously they watched the Ali G intro and I'm sure it was meant to be a rip-off of that, but yeah, it was just amazing. I really want to get a copy of it. And if anyone knows out there, send us an email, james@jimmerish.com.
I'm so glad that they put on YouTube those ads, those community service announcements that were made by that guy who did the germs ones and the vitamin ones.
Yeah.
They were great.
Yeah.
I kind of wish he did more stuff. It sort of disappeared.
So they're all by one guy.
Yeah, they're all by this one guy. And he actually won some prize because he was doing all this cool animation back in the day. And
when were they made?
Yeah, he's still alive. They were made in the late 70s, early 80s. So they're around kind of through the 80s in our early childhood.
Yeah.
So when we were 5 years old, I mean,
They didn't do a redux in HD and put them on TV.
They do. Well, he
the original
he
film
was
or
quite
something.
excited that people were like, wow, and putting them on YouTube and contacting him, and he actually had to get one of them converted from a VHS tape to give to them because they wanted to put it up on YouTube. So, you know, he obviously had kind of shelved this away and thought that, you know, he'd been forgotten about. But, you know, there's a whole generation of young adults now that are like, yeah.
It was
so
like,
cool.
who came to Perth? Was it Peter Coon? And everyone went with
yeah.
newspaper hats. Newspaper mama.
Peter Coombs had a big revival.
Yeah.
You know, newspaper hats and toffee apples are just the new
Flying off the shelves.
new cool thing. You know, if you're at a hip club and Peter Coombe comes and plays, you know, toffee apple nice and licky, or newspaper mama, or juicy green grass, or whatever. It's just the best night.
Going back to writing, what's it like having an editor? Are they like a bully, or do you?
I think it depends on your editor,
Yeah.
and it depends on you. And I've had.
Are they trying to push you to be conservative, more like going out there?
Again, it just depends on the book. Like, I mean, my editor's always been great, and they've always been right. Like, sometimes they'll be like, oh, I feel like this is happening too quickly. Can you sort of pace it a bit better? Or, you know, can you cut this down a bit? It's just taking too long. And, you know, it's always right. It's always stuff that I kind of secretly knew in my head, but I just couldn't be asked doing it. So they actually kind of make you go that extra mile. Push is kind of like a personal trainer. But I've had good experiences so far. But I'm quite a meticulous worker. I edit a lot as I go. And I think there's a lot of writers who will just splurge it out, get the rough ideas out there. So it's pretty rough when they take it to their editor. So hence a lot more cutting and sort of working on the project with them. You know, and yeah, there's some editors that are probably hard. There are some editors that probably have a very sort of strong idea of what they think a project should be. And there's also a lot of writers who are very probably strong-willed and strong-headed. So, you know, I'm sure there are some fiery clashes sometimes. But at the end of the day, I mean, editors generally see the potential in a work, and generally their skill is knowing how it will sell better, really, and how it will be better digested for the average person. And, you know, perhaps it may slightly make your book not appeal as much to that niche that totally understand and get your writing, but you know, it might make it more generally kind of readable. And yeah, I don't know, I'll let you know if I have any tricky times with editors in the future, but so far
so
it's all
who's
been
the
good.
editor on your current two books? The same, different, or?
Yeah, I had a different editor on my first book, and I got a different editor for the next two just because the editor changed company. So UQP has done all three books, and they got a new editor, but both editors were just lovely, just great. And I think it might be also different working on children's books, because generally children's authors and children's editors are just lovely, happy, silly people that like cool stuff. Might be different on adult stuff, I'm not sure.
So these next two books are still University of Queensland Press?
The next one coming out, the picture book, the Red Wheelbarrow, is with UQP. The other one is still so new; it hasn't been contracted, and I sort of don't want it to be contracted.
Oh,
yet,
so you're doing it
'cause
independently?
Yeah. I mean, UQP is interested in reading it, but
You know what, Briony? I was going to talk to you about this. You need to be on Twitter.
even though I've said like twice already, I'm not on Twitter.
No, you need to be.
I need to be.
Why you got a publisher, right? They do all the publicising, but you need to build up. You need to trap all that publicity they do for you, so that when you go independent, you know, you've got followers.
Independent, but
So that when you eventually, maybe in 10 years' time, you can just say, screw a publisher. All I have to do is tweet that my book's out there, and I'll sell more copies than all the other books combined.
maybe.
You got to capture what, you know, they're doing for you right now. I hope they don't. Maybe they don't want to hear this, but that's what people do. Like Kevin Smith, he's famous because all he's had these studio movies, right?
Yeah.
But now he has 1.8 million followers from doing his studio movies. So his current movie, he just sold it himself. Like, he didn't even have a studio to publicize it. And people just, he just tweeted, hey, we're doing a show, come watch the movie. And, you're charging $60 a ticket rather than the normal 20 because it's like a proper show.
Well, I think you kind of need to have some kind of real commercial success for that to work first. Like, JK,
No, but that's what I'm
JK
saying.
could do that.
Yeah,
JK
yeah.
could do that.
That's
but-
what she doesn't do that with Pottermore. Can't you buy the books
Yeah.
and she gets the whole role? She doesn't.
Oh, I don't know about that, but yeah, I mean, yeah, she's kind of.
That's what I mean. You need to
Pottermore.
start the Twitter feed now because if your next book comes to commercial success, you want other or maybe just other publishers following you and seeing what you're up to. And then when you're talking about your new book, they saw and they might suddenly you got competition and people bidding to have your next book. It sounds silly, but that's
No,
the future, right? Is people, not publishers. I've been following this website where they sort of got big by being charismatic people on this blog for this normally faceless blog, but they became characters by doing podcasts and tweeting, and so people started following them, and suddenly they just left. When the company had like a shake up and said they couldn't do what they wanted to do, they just left. And they took the entire audience away from this blog just because they followed them on Twitter from their thing. And then now they got their own site, which they own. So they get all the profits from the ads. It's not going on to some weird big conglomerate company.
All right. Well, I tell you what, I'll work really hard on
You have to establish the Briony Stewart brand. Briony Stewart Dong was fair, but people can't follow that. You need to set up a Twitter feed.
Maybe,
and if you start off,
help me set it up,
even
James.
I can set it up right so that when you blog, it just tweets something. So if you don't want to get into tweeting right now, at least people can get updates of when you've got a new blog post up. Yeah. And it's because it's public. You don't have to worry about, adding Facebook friends that you don't know. You got to get into it, Briony. I mean, it's obviously harder for you because you're a children's author, so obviously kids aren't even legally meant to be on the internet until they're 13 years old, so... But I guess if you're saying your next book is going to be a teen thing, if you can get them on Twitter now, and 5 years' time, and you suddenly decide, you know what, I'm going to do this, adult book, and they've been following your career, and they're like, hey, I'm going to check that out. I love that book that she did when I was a kid. They have this nostalgia factor,
No, these are all good points, James.
Very easy.
Points.
Someone don't steal it if Briony Stewart's taken. If you're listening.
There's another Briony Stewart in the UK, actually. My doppelganger in the UK. I actually sent her an email once because I was just like, hey, I'm also Briony Stewart. If you see stuff on the internet about me, I just, so we know each other exists. You can be in the Northern Hemisphere. I'm in the Southern Hemisphere. I don't know what's going to happen when I actually go to Scotland next year because she lives in Scotland. So she's actually the same age as me, and her birthday's the day
meet up?
after,
You're gonna freak
after
out?
my birthday.
Did I tell you in London, I literally almost tapped a girl on the shoulder because she looked just like you. And I was like, what the hell are you doing in London?
Oh my God.
And it was only because I would have done it. It's only because we were at a pedestrian intersection and she was going the other way, and I missed the light, that I would have actually literally. She looked so much like you. I would have said hello. What the hell are you doing in London? So that you have a doppelganger in London.
Sweet.
And what if it turned out to be Briony Stewart?
Oh my God.
Have you seen pictures of the other Briony Stewart?
I have
So
actually.
that illusion's broken.
Yeah. But she dyed her hair. Maybe it grew long. I don't know. It could have been.
Sorry, I'm eating bread because I didn't have. Do you want some bread?
No, I'm okay.
I forgot to have breakfast or
maybe
lunch before I started, so now I'm starving.
Do you want me to go make you something? James?
No, we're gonna have a dinner break at 7.
Do you want us to bring you some food, James? Be a marathon.
Well, I've got
Just whip you up some
I got a special
meters.
film to play during the for my dinner break, so I'll have time to go.
A special film.
It'll be kind of like a film. It's probly more entertaining than
special
me
is the
playing
film?
Batman.
So it's not like
You haven't heard it? Me, a while ago, maybe a year ago, me, Harry, Campbell, Fred got together and did a commentary track for G-Day.
Yes.
So I'm going to play that. It's very entertaining.
Man, you should replay G-Day, the movie. In fact, I think we're going to have a film night on Wednesday to watch the old Backstage Crew video. So I think maybe G-Day needs to have a thing, because that was for Nick.
It's on jimmyrich.com if you want to watch it.
And it's basically just a film a few 17-year-olds made about stealing a big picture of Ali G from a cinema.
And it probably only makes sense if you know us as well.
Yeah, it's just a big cardboard cutout of Ali G. It was pretty hardcore at the time. Everyone was like, "You didn't? Oh my god!"
Especially for us nerds, like when obviously we feel part of the crew, we're doing speed and bashing up hookers and stuff like that. It's not that big of a deal, but
well, for us, that was pretty big. Like someone might have told you off. Oh my god!
So what's your? Can I talk about your writing process? What are you totally, do you have a routine?
No. I would like to work on developing a routine. It'd probably be good, convenient. Actually, I've just been in the process this year of changing my whole approach to writing to be able to write this novel for teenagers, and it's been really hard. It's really racked me with self-doubt this year, and I was almost going to give up the project because it just wasn't happening for so long. But it's back on again. It's going. But yeah, usually my approach to writing was, kind of like almost like poetry in that I generally kind of went for shorter styles, and every line I'd really think about, and it had to be beautiful, and I'd kind of reread and re-edit as I went, and so I'd always end up with a pretty polished, pretty finished product, and that's what I've had kudos for my editors for, having these pretty polished and finished manuscripts. But it's a really, really time-consuming way to work, and it doesn't work when you're trying to write a novel and you're trying to keep track of a whole lot of different threads of things going on, and you have to write so many words that to spend time making them all beautiful takes too long. So I've actually had to change up my way of working and just write massive chunks. And I just need to kind of get down the whole manuscript as a draft, and then I'm going to have to go back and make it beautiful. And that's actually what I like doing most as a writer, is I like thinking how to create the imagery and how to use language in an interesting way, and that's what I like a lot. So it's been really hard for me to kind of let go of sentences that sound bad, and and scenes that are lame. It's been hard for me to let go and keep moving, keep pushing onwards. But it's the only way really to get, I think, a longer project actually finished without going crazy. So yeah, still learning about process and developing all the time with writing.
Have you tried doing the NaNoWriMo, where you write 50,000 words in 30 days and you're not allowed to go back and edit until you've finished your first draft? That
would kill me. I'm not there yet. Yeah. I think, for me, 1,000 words in
is that what you're saying? Like you want to keep writing and not go back to edit until...
Yep. That is good. And I think that is a skill to learn, and I think that helps you actually get through things. Because I've also discovered that when you're writing a novel, a lot of the times I had preconceived ideas about what I wanted the story to do, and I could kind of just kind of pace it along. Whereas I think you actually really do discover a lot of the story as you're writing it when you're writing a novel, because it's quite long and you might have a few key scenes in mind and you might know where you want to end up, but how you get there actually changes a lot as you go. And so I kind of wasn't prepared for that as much, because I'm a bit of a control freak when I work. I like everything to be controlled, and to have the story make me feel out of control, like it's taking charge.
Yeah.
It was quite hard, quite hard for me. So it's been interesting.
I find really hard to make decisions. Like, the reason I chose this final summer project for this one is because I've already written the story for this, so I don't need to worry about changing my mind. I just have to fill in the blanks, rather than I find it harder I'll write maybe the first 2/3 of the thing and get to the end, and I have to work out what's going to happen in the last third, and I don't want to kill off a character. I'm too scared to make a decision, like a cutthroat decision, which is hard. But that's it, but also getting a routine I think is good. I did that last summer and I lost my way eventually, but where you're writing every day, even if it's not something related, so you're doing a blog post or writing another script. But I'm terrible at it. I'm really good when I'm focused. When I know what I want, I can write 40 pages in a day.
Yeah.
But this is a script thing, but then it might take me 3 months to like write another 20 or something.
Yeah, no, I totally understand, and I've had that too. You know, I think it's sometimes, when you know what's happening in a scene, it's so much fun to write it, but when you have that kind of agony of trying to get from A to B, and you're like, what's the best way of doing this? What's it kind of bogs you down, and that's where I've had to sort of say, I'll just make a decision. I'll just do it this way. But that might be something I actually go back to and change later. And it is okay to go back and change things later. It's not a way I like to work, but it is actually a more productive way of working on large projects. So, yeah. So good luck on your big project.
It's going to need it.
Don't say that. It's awesome, and people should vote for it. And
well, this is a small project. This is like the prequel to my big project, if there was going to be continuity.
You have some very grand ideas, James.
Yeah, well, see, the thing is, I have no problem writing stuff that is, if I had no limit of money, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to have a space drama. I'm going to have like $2 billion worth of space special effects. That's no worries. I love doing that. And then it's like, okay, I need to actually become someone famous before they'll let me do that. So I have to write some really wacky indie flick that can be made for under $1 million. And I'm just sit there and I'm stumped, Because like, the stuff that I find interesting, other people wouldn't. You just freak out about that.
You do know that.
Well, yeah, I'm going to do a screen test soon, and we'll find out what other people think. But, anyway.
For this project?
No, this is a different thing.
Right.
So this project's fine because I just get to make it. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, boom. You have a final product rather than when you're trying to sell a script, which is not a final product. It's weird.
So I need
to get in book writing.
Pardon? You need to get into book writing.
Yeah, write a book.
And then make a film.
Then the book gets famous, and they're like, "Would you like to make a film?" And I'm like, "Yes, I will." But I'm terrible with that kind of stuff. I say I'm like, "Yeah, I should do that," but then I don't. Anyway.
Well, you can't do everything. I think. You do a lot of aspects. A lot of people sort of go into things and they say, I want to direct, or I want to be a great cameraman or cinematographer. I want to make the music, or some people kind of. But you sort of have been trying to develop quite a wide range.
Yeah, well, that's
skills.
only because I can't find anyone else to do it.
Yeah, well, it's hard. So you've had to learn all these skills.
Yeah, I mean, that's what Aaron, who we had in earlier, who won Movie Express for last year, he had a whole team. I mean, the reason why, also, it was a funny show, their idea. But the reason I think they won it is because they had a team. He writes and directs with one other guy, so it's like a duo, and then they have a publicist who, they can trust to do all the stuff that I'd hate to do, like ringing people and trying to sell stuff. You have that team, which I don't have. I'm just a director who I'm technically the producer, but that's because I don't have anyone else to produce the film. But hopefully, at least if I make the finals of this, maybe we'll get some attention, and people will be like, "Oh, I'll be interested in producing that," and then it might actually happen. But
so, in this series, because we've talked a lot about my books and stuff, and I'm just going to turn the tables on you as interviewer here. Have you ever kind of done anything like that? Like, is this sort of G Day where you were stealing the Ali G film? You're sort of one act of being a sort of a rebel or a vigilante, or have you ever kind of had a costume, and gone out and?
No, I fantasize about it though.
Yeah.
So this is my, I'm taking that out to a virtual, my fantasy of putting on the screen. Like there's a roundabout just around the corner. And some people have just written on the tree. They've just graffitied on the tree, and you're writing a book about stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm like, I want to bash the guy out that did that.
Yeah, they graffitied on a palm tree, and it wasn't like a cool thing.
Yeah. If it's artwork, go ahead and do whatever you want. But if it's just some tag. There's some very funny posts on Twitter. I'm thinking of resurrecting some people on Twitter, some city in the United States where someone's going around and writing like the kind of tags you find in art galleries under a painting. And so it says anonymous squiggle. By effing cunt or something. You know what I mean? And they just stick it onto graffiti things around the city whenever they see some lame tag.
That's kind of cool.
It's just kind of.
But see, that's good because it kind of makes that thing cool. So I mean, is there a place for that bad stuff? Because, you know, it's kind of like a dialogue happening on the streets about what is good, what is artistic, what isn't, you know. And as one of my friends who did do some graffiti stuff in the past once said, you know, a lot of these graffiti artists start somewhere, and you know, if you go to any sort of standard community exhibition or whatever in Perth, I mean, there's a lot of crap art in Perth, you know, fine art. There's a lot of really crap fine art.
So you think some
there's
tag
only a
is...
few really, really good artists. And so that's the thing with street art. There's a lot of people that are bad or wannabes or are developing, and then there's, you know, just a few that are really good. But, you know, those people have to keep developing to work their way up there somehow. But I kind of agree at the same time. It's like, can't you just do that in books until you're good, and then you can put it on the street? But, you know, I guess that's where it's...
So you think some taggers turn out to be graffiti artists?
Yeah, well, sometimes it goes hand in hand. You know, it's sort of a secret identity. Yeah. I've kind of got this theory that I put in my book. It's just a little theory. It could be completely bullcrap and other graffiti artists wouldn't agree with it. But sometimes I kind of think that tagging is a little bit like keeping a diary. It's something that you write for like other people, but actually you're really writing it for yourself. Like I kept a journal a lot when I was in high school, and I know I actually like wrote my initials on things a lot when I was like about 12 or 13, and it's kind of like that secret thing of knowing that you did it and that you've left something behind, and it makes you think about who might see it, but it also kind of reminds you that you've been there and stuff. And yeah, it's just kind of an interesting relationship that you form with the space around you and where you live and your identity and your community. So yeah, that adds another sort of layer to that whole idea of what it is or what it's there for, you know. It could just be somebody connecting with their community, you know. You might think it looks like a piece
I'm
of
just
crap,
very out of touch in that environment. I just don't know why you would ever do that. What makes it cool?
Some things I don't understand, and some things I kind of do, you know.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not like G-Day was something that we regularly did. Well, we never regularly made weird videos like that, but that seems like a fun thing to do. And now this generation, you'd think, hey, we can go out and make wacky videos on YouTube and get famous. Why would you still want to take interest in tagging?
Because it's illegal. Because you're not supposed to do it. And because when you're, like, even from when you're a little kid, like, it's one of those kind of primal things, you know, when you get a crayon and you start drawing on a wall and somebody was like, don't do that, oh, you're so naughty, now you've got to wash this off, you know. And, you know, perhaps there's that kind of inner thing inside you just to break some little simple rule like that makes you feel good, you know, like a bit more free.
Yeah.
Maybe if you feel like society's telling you what to do and you just want to take back a little bit of control and do whatever you want to do, kind of gives you a bit of that. Or just, you know, the challenge. I mean, a lot of the time it's trying to get it in certain places, or even just to make it look good or whatever could be the challenge of that, and people want the risk of doing it, not getting caught, and doing it in a cool place or whatever. Like, somebody tagged Bonnie's scooter. They tagged her scooter. She was just parked outside somebody's house, and somebody tagged the seat of her scooter with a big fat marker. Like, who does that? Who does that shit? I mean, that pisses me off, because people like that obviously, like, don't realise that that's kind of messed up, because, you know, that costs people, you know, real money. But, you know, if it's, you know, to be honest, like, if it's just some abandoned warehouse or whatever, who cares? And, you know, sometimes you see areas where, like, they've painted over graffiti with some kind of paint that's not even, like, the same colour, and you get all these kind of mismatched areas of colour, and it looks, like, worse than the graffiti that would have been there. And I just think, what's the point in that? You may as well have just left it there and let other people draw over it and just let it keep going.
It just seems so uncreative to me, like, and I don't know. I was not brought up. I was very sheltered. I have a little sheltered life, so I wouldn't know what that.
Well, I did too.
And I'm like, we went out, even every now and then, you know, you go out in the summer holidays, you do some wacky hijinks. Like, we built, me and Harry and our school friends, the block next door used to be vacant, and we built like huge bases, like dug big holes and made like underground bases, or built them up in the tree, and used to have wars. And I realized digging those giant holes, and I'm saying they were giant, like it, you know, who had the biggest hole was like the coolest kid. And I'm sure when they came to develop that land, it was a pain in the ass having to fill it up, right? So it is destructive, but we were actually doing something creative, and we were stimulating imagination. And I just don't see that with tagging at all.
That's just because you haven't followed the same tagger in their all the places that they've gone and how their thing has developed. And I think, yeah. But also a lot of tagging isn't about art. It's not. It's about something completely different.
It's like pissing on a tree. You're marking your territory. Isn't that?
Yeah, but there's this line because it crosses over, because there are some people that tag, but they also are developing a style, and they also do big pieces, like they call them like blockbusters or big things, and they actually are developing that. But they still have to maintain a bit of a reputational image within that sort of culture. So yeah, it's just I just find it quite interesting because I had a very sheltered life as well. I went to Perth Mod, and I played the cello and did all the academic things and was very sort of mainstream. But that idea of sort of rebelling, I think, always crossed my mind when I was a teenager, and that real desire to sort of break free or do something kind of crazy, or to just sort of mark the places where you've been. As I said, I kept journals. I think it's just very interesting, and I don't propose to know the meaning of it or the idea, but it's nice to kind of invent a character and sort of put forward a theory, I guess.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know. It probably doesn't come across in the trailer, and I don't know how you portray it in a minute, but the whole idea is with the final summit is to ground it in reality. The graffiti thing is just something, she's training, beating up taggers is like her training, but what she ultimately wants to do is get justice for her friend who was raped, right? Mm-hmm. And I just, the whole idea is putting myself in your shoes. Like, if one of your 4 best friend was raped, and the people who did it, you knew the people who did it, but they didn't get caught by the police, or she refused to dob them in because she was embarrassed, how the whole thing, how it usually goes. What would you do? Would you actually seek out, if you couldn't get the police to arrest them, would you take matters into your own hands?
I don't know, it definitely crossed my mind. Definitely would. I don't know what I would do. There was somebody in my life I really didn't like once, and I did drive past their house and throw eggs at it once. I guess that's sort of taking.
What age were you when you did this?
I was 18 actually when I did it, so I could have got in trouble. It was a personal thing. The person was actually legitimately shit to me. I don't condone that, but I do understand. I do understand sometimes there are some kind of, again, you've picked an interesting sort of area. You have those things of where are the boundaries in society, and what would you do, and how deep are your feelings, and I think that they're always the things that are interesting to look at in artistic ways, in film, in writing, and.
But that's the question I'm put there is, I guess, what to try and answer in the 7-episode arc or whatever it is that what would you do if you were put in this situation? If you were a sheltered kid like us, Some people might not identify the story. I don't know how many of us there are, but
yeah. Well, I mean, there are people that they'd be like, "Oh, I'll just go beat them up" or whatever. And yeah, I understand. I'm definitely more of a sort of a thinker or whatever. So yeah, I don't think it's that crazy to think somebody might, create an identity and then try to take matters into their own hands.
Well, I won't mention them on air, but I think you may remember that I can't remember how old we were, but a certain person did something bad to a friend of mine, and I was like, and I think I was drunk one night, and I declared at a party that I was gonna spend 6 months training and then challenge this guy to a fight at my birthday party or something like that, and fight him. But then, and I was really serious. I literally bought a boxing. You can see it. That's the remnants of it. They're hanging out.
Yeah, there is a chain for a boxing.
I got fully into it, and then the person who the whole revenge thing was about found out about it, and she was like, "No, I don't believe in violence," and guilted me. Made me pinky swear that I wouldn't actually get into a fight. But that's as close as I've come to like real rage, and so if that's not going to happen to me, I have to explore it in characters, I guess. Yeah.
Now we're getting all deep and dark. The underbelly of Perth. It's a real underbelly.
Yeah.
all the ex-scholarship students who secretly desire revenge on the nasty people who were incredibly rude and horrible to them once.
So what made you decide to do the tagging and teen thing? Is there like a character in it that drives it, or
it's
just what came first? What was this?
It was definitely a character. Actually, the character I started like 10 years ago back in high school. I was going to write this other book. It was going to be amazing, but it had all these characters in it, and it all started with this like moment on a train, and they're all just sitting on the train. They had nothing to do with each other, but their lives only crossed over in that second where they're all sitting on the train. And there was this character of this kid, and it was kind of around that time where I was interested. I was doing art. I was a total art nerd. In perspectives and, art scholarships and things like that. And, but, there was also this interest I had in kind of rebelling against that as well. So I was kind of interested in that. And anyway, so this character was around for a while, but, it just, I guess the idea of the story developed from that. I kind of just decided to tell that character's story, and kind of is my own sort of interest in the subject and the area. And the character isn't that hardcore. He's not really that rebellious. He's definitely more on the artistic side of things because, it's only really an extension of myself. And it's a nice chance to also talk about like line and color. And there's this thing, like, ever since I was really little, I've always liked colours being named by their actual names, like, it's khaki green, that's, olive green, that's magenta, that's whatever. Like, I hate, it's just like, oh, that's pink, and some people say that it's not even pink. It's like, that's not pink, like, for God's sakes, like, oh, pick up the blue one. It's like, that's indigo. It's like, it's not purple, it's not blue. Yeah. What are you talking about? Anyway, so it's kind of nice to kind of have a character that's really obsessed with that and talking about colours and talking about line, the way that some people are really into music and things like that. So, so it's kind of like...
And then twist, they find out they're colourblind and everything they thought they knew, and then that doesn't happen. So then it's all like, oh my God. Existential crisis.
You've just revealed the whole twist of the story, James. No, not really. But
you can have that. If they make a movie, and they can make that Counting Crows song, "Colorblind."
You're already planning the movie for my book, James. Great, awesome.
Taggers.
Yeah, it's called Fine Lines.
Could we put Samantha in as this figure that their enemy that beats them, so it tells their side of the story?
Yeah, maybe they're those kids that got bashed up in the trailer there. Yeah. They were just trying to
just have some one chapter about this random girl in a red mask.
Maybe I'll just include it. In fact, maybe I should do a crossover, just a random project that you're working on, and just in case there's that link in the future. But what's also been really fun is writing the dialogue. I think that's kind of the strongest part of the book, and I don't know where it comes from, but you know me, James, so you know that I'm actually quite crass. And even though everyone's like, "Ooh, Briony, she's
obsessed with poo.
She likes
designed a poo logo.
She likes Pride and Prejudice and dressing in skirts and things. Like, there's definitely a crass side of me that kind of always wanted to be a boy, just so I can like swear and laugh about crude sexual humor and things like that. So I kind of get to do that in this book, and all the really dumb boy jokes that are just like really lame, but they make me laugh. I get to put in the book. All of those conversations that I was secretly smiling about as I was listening to them, next to me, when I was at high school, the dodgy guys at the back, I'd be at the second back row just listening to them.
To what they say,
and it was very amusing, and I found it amusing. Maybe other people find it amusing too. Don't know. Or maybe just also really offensive. That's the one thing, is it will be interesting when I give this book to my editor, based on the past things they've seen, whether they'll just be like, what the hell? and maybe we'll come to some kind of, disagreements about how, the language and, the boundaries and, what's taking it too far, or what's not funny, that kind of thing.
Yeah. It's also because I'm reading this. The main character's a girl, and I guess the two main characters are girls. So that's something weird that you have to write for. I have to think about. And also like the issue with her being like a vigilante is, I've heard, didn't they do some tests where female Nazis were more like found it psychologically easier to gas people than male Nazis. Girls are able to block things out as long as they don't see the direct result or something like that.
How do we get to this? I just missed some kind of step there in the conversation. And now you're
no, well, I was talking about me having to write for a girl. Like, right. Would a female vigilante be more brutal, even though she doesn't have the strength of maybe a male vigilante? Would she be more brutal because she can switch off, the concepts of pain and stuff like that? Because I've heard tests about, like, that's how I was talking about the female Nazis. Apparently they found it psychologically easier to push the switch on the gas chamber than the men, because they can look past things,
I think whatever,
and maybe they get it from childbirth, where they have to just grit and
it's possible. I reckon whatever character you write, though, what's interesting is they would be entirely possible. There's light and shade in everybody, and there's also a lot of sort of male or female in everyone, especially in the way that they think. I think that the way people think or respond to things isn't necessarily that gendered. Often the way they act towards things is, but in terms of internal monologues, I mean, you have some pretty cold, hard females. You have some pretty emotional sort of men, so anything you write, I think, is entirely possible in the realm of reality. So but do you find that you have challenges writing for you're writing a female role?
My females are very aspirational, do
you ever think, do I need to include a scene about periods, or something like that?
Well, I was gonna God, I got some inappropriate questions I have about that, but
you want to save them for later, for sex ed later, James.
No, well, I do. I mean, obviously, I think the main female characters are very aspirational. I mean, the main girl in it, Beth, played by Beth, called Samantha, is based on someone I know who is, pretty in her own kind of way, and she is a loner. She's obsessed with Batman. She's obsessed with TV and stuff like that, and she sits in a room and she talks about this kind of stuff, but she never actually has the courage to do it. But then I'm like,
it's a bit of an angry person.
So it's based on this character is based on a real person, and then I'm throwing in what would happen if she had this drive to do it, such as the incident with her best friend. So, but then, this is a prequel to another project, which the female in that is my idea of the main female character is kind of like my idea of the perfect woman, but not as in like perfect, as in beautiful, as in personality wise. She has the right, she's grounded, but still able, not boring grounded. She's still able to have fun, which I've never really met in real life. This person doesn't exist, so I'm trying to create it, and I'm hoping that she would be a role model. If I actually made this movie, I'm hoping that girls would see her as a role model more than like, what's the latest people like the Hannah Montanas. I don't know these people anymore, but.
Oh, who's
Hannah Montana in?
No, iCarly maybe is.
iCarly.
Well, Hannah Montana's sort of finished now.
Who she played though? Who's the girl?
I don't even know her name.
She's like the son of the achy breaky heart guy.
No, that's Hannah
daughter?
Montana. That's Hannah Montana. But
yeah,
iCarly's kind of still around at the moment. That's kind of big. There was the Wizards of Waverly Place, which has Selena Gomez, but she might have left now because she's kind of doing other things. Yeah. Australia's a bit behind the US in terms of kids' TV shows, but I'm up with that. See, I'm a kid. I watch that stuff.
I just see. I just hate so many female characters and that are on TV that I feel like a bad role models. Like, especially like I have a Reese Witherspoon crush, but some of the female characters she plays are like despicable. Like, I personally find. And I'm not talking about election where she's intentionally despicable. I'm talking about where they're playing her off, and maybe Katherine Heigl is the worst. The characters she plays, I think girls like look at her and I feel like she's so fake. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to create some new kind of, this is why it's taking me 5 years to.
Are you hoping that you'll like get this person?
But then I want to create like other female characters around her that you can see the difference. So she's not just sitting there in isolation, so people don't appreciate it. You want to create real characters around her to say, oh, you should choose to be like her, not these other girls. I don't know. Do you ever think about that when you're creating a male character? Like you like?
No, not really. I don't. I wouldn't like my brother to be like this character. I just kind of think that sometimes people are like this. Yeah, no, I don't really think of role models, but I guess I'm not really looking so much at role models, but I'm really quite interested in making sure that the books I write aren't just that kind of quick, fast, readable pulp fiction type stuff that, I like them to be artistic. I like them to have some, hopefully, I don't know, I can't be the judge really, but some kind of literary merit. I hope that they actually do something that contributes artistically, even if they're an action, crude, crass book like this one. I still hope that the way that it's framed and the way that, the language is done, that it's it's a piece of literature, not just a book, and in a way that still gets young people to want to read it, because, having young people read stuff and develop an appreciation for arts and quality literature is something that I'm passionate about. So, yeah, so, I mean, I know what you mean. I guess that's where my motives lie, not necessarily in creating role models in my characters.
What are your, outside of what you do, what are your favourite like male and female characters in other art forms? In
books or movies or what do you mean? Like, what do you mean by favourite, though?
As in... Someone's Skyping us, but I don't know if... You must identify yourself if you want to Skype.
Yeah, James just hung up on that person. Probably like the only person who's listening to our show, and it's like, I really want to talk to those people.
I think it was spam. Send us a message first if you're going to Skype us and tell us who you are, and we'll talk to anyone. We're not going to reject them, but if that looks like a spam person calling us, probably about buy this dodgy shares in some market.
Yes, fair enough.
So where was it? Yeah, your favourite male or female characters. You can name more than one if there's like one you would aspire to be, or one that you wish you were but you never would be.
Yeah, I don't know. There's not many I want to be more like, because I'm pretty much, I guess I've reached the point where I'm pretty much like, well, this is who I am, and I know who I am, and I'm not going to try and be somebody that I'm not. I mean, there's characters I like because I like the characters.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's characters I identify with, but yeah, no characters I think I'd like to be like. I mean, I guess I kind of sometimes imagine myself being a little bit like Anne of Green Gables. I hope that I'm kind of, in the past when I was a kid and stuff, quite whimsical, a bit feisty, a little bit tomboyish, but also desperately wanting to be a girl and wanting to be romantic and stuff like that. And yeah, no, she was always like lively, and wanting to be a sort of like an independent sort of a woman. She didn't just like go off and marry Gilbert straight away. She sort of was like, no, I'm going to go have a career and do all these other things and see if I can love somebody else first, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, I guess maybe Anne is probably the closest thing, but I never was inspired by her. I mean, I read Anne of Green Gables, once I was, a late teenager, or in my early 20s even, perhaps. And so, yeah, growing up, I don't think that I picked a character that I wanted to be like that was necessarily an actual good role model. I mean, I think I was like a lot of girls and wanted to be pretty like someone in a movie, or adventurous. I think I probably wanted to be Pippi Longstockings. I wanted to be Tintin for a long time. I just wanted to go around solving mysteries.
Excited about the movies? Do you think they'll be good? Because they're using that stuff you hate, that CGI.
Yeah, I'm a bit wary of what it's going to look like, but I'm not open to it. I'm not going to judge it before I've seen it. I was really excited that they were making a Tintin movie, but I really wanted a live-action one because, to be honest, when I was a kid, like, I actually had a crush on the cartoon Tintin, and I knew it was ridiculous because he was, like, this animated figure. But, like, if they actually had, like, a live-action Tintin, it would be, like, a real person I could actually have a crush on. Well, somewhat closer to a real person that I could have a crush on. Yeah, so that was a little bit... Damn. But it could be good.
Yeah.
It still could be good. Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. You know, I think if they're going to do it in that manner, where they've sort of filmed it and then they've sort of animated over the top of it, they have to make sure they still get that balance right of having, like, really awesome, like, special effects, like explosions and stuff that couldn't actually just be done that well in real life. So there's, like, a reason for doing it that way, if you know what I mean. It's got to, like, sort of contribute or enhance things.
I'm a bit wary as well, although I know they're putting a lot more work into it than some of the other films like that.
It's Steven Spielberg, though.
Steven Spielberg and Peter Jackson teaming up. So
yeah. Although I have to say, this
and Gollum
season,
was awesome. But
this season, I'm a little bit more excied about Hugo. I don't know if you've seen the trailer
Smart
for that.
Scorsese's.
It's a children's film, but it's also kind of like I hear it's like a love letter to film, and I've definitely seen some aspects, you know, where they've referenced old films and stuff. It looks pretty cool. So I'm kind of excited about that one.
So no male characters?
What, that
other than Tintin? You want to be Tintin, but...
Yeah, I also...
Or just be his sidekick
like
so
the
you
Ninja
can...
Turtles as well.
Alright, yeah.
Although I was really lame.
What was your favourite? Oh, you gotta say.
I was like Leonardo. Now,
Right.
that's the shittest one to like because I liked him because he
He's
was
a dumb
the leader and
Yeah.
he was like all sticking to the rules and really serious. And I
Yeah.
kind of liked that. I think being like the elder child, I was always kind of like stick to the rules. And, you know, my sister was always not sticking to the rules and I was like, meh. So I was kind of like, yeah, Leonardo, he knows his thing. All those other ones do dumb stuff, but, you know, they were actually just having fun.
Yeah.
So Harry likes Michelangelo because he was like the party dude or whatever. And I probably should have liked him. Or Raphael because he was like the science Ninja Turtle. Male role models. I'll probably think of a ton like when I go away from here, but I know I read a lot of books and I didn't really obsess over anything in particular when I was younger. I just kind of moved through books and through films at like a rapid rate. Like I watched a serious amount of movies and read a serious amount of books when I was a kid, and I think that all kind of fueled my ending up being a writer myself because I loved it. I loved them. I love stories and narratives.
One of my favourite female characters is Emma Woodhouse from Emma.
Okay.
What do girls think of her?
Yeah, see, I couldn't really relate to her because she was just like a bit of a spoilt brat, and you know, she kind of, I guess she was young and sort of she had these sort of ideas and stuff that ended up going pear-shaped, and you know, luckily things all turned out okay in the end. I mean, I identify more with Elizabeth from Pride and Prejudice. I mean, she's a bit more awesome because she's a bit more independent, and
I could never forgive her for being so prejudiced
to Mr. Darcy.
Not to Mr. Darcy, but to other people around her. Like she was prejudiced to everyone pretty much, and the only person she really forgave in the end, I could be wrong, was Darcy himself. Everyone else she sort of made fun of in her head, rather than, I feel like when at the end of Emma just appreciated everyone so much more, even the dumb people. Like she hated, like,
I suppose that's true, but I guess I mean,
but then I always thought maybe it seemed I always felt like she was writing Emma more for men than she was for girls. Like it was a character that girls would hate rather than men would.
I don't hate her.
Like her because she's so motherly. Like she wants to be the head of the house and stuff like that. You know.
No, I don't hate her. I just she just kind of is a little bit silly sometimes, and she kind of I mean, there's that. I mean, I guess I'm also remembering the film here, but, you know, it's done quite well, that scene, you know, where I've forgotten the lady's name, the kind of the poor spinster or whatever that they're always kind of being charitable towards, and she says something really mean to her or whatever, and it's a really awkward moment.
Yeah.
You know, it just feels kind of awful. It's like, it seems like she's a bit sillier, whereas Emma seems a bit smarter about what she says. Even if she is making fun of people, they can't tell. So she kind of is still polite. Yeah, I don't know. Other characters. I don't know. No, I don't know.
Favorite hero?
Favorite hero.
Not necessarily a superhero, but a hero.
Hero.
Or heroine.
I'm just drawing blanks. Not the kid. Well, I'd almost say the kid from Never Ending Story, but he was a bit of a wuss bag. Hero. Yeah, I don't know.
What are like the big movies that you from your childhood that like still stick around? Like, do you have movies that made a difference?
Oh yeah, The Secret Garden. That actually made me read the book. That was really beautifully made and very, very true to the book. That was great. I loved that, and it definitely had. It was, you know, it was a drama, but it was sort of. It included a lot of sort of elements of sort of fairy tale and folklore and stuff in it. You know, everyone watched The Labyrinth. You know, The Labyrinth and The Never-Ending Story. I watched Pippi Longstockings a lot, but I don't know if that was the greatest film ever. Some other movies that left their mark. I don't know. As I said, I watched a lot of movies. I can proudly say that we lived right near Planet Video, you know, back before Planet Video was as cool as it is now. And, you know, my parents were quite young parents. They liked to party a lot and go to parties. And so it would always be sort of our agreement. They would get a movie. We'd go to the party with them, and we'd just be like in the front room on somebody's bed. They'd always have like a TV in their room. And so we'd just watch movies and eat twisties and fall asleep on the bed. And then they'd take us home. So we watched a lot of movies that way. Or we had babysitters and we watched movies. And it didn't do me any harm. But yeah, now I'm just drawing blanks of like the sort of key films of my childhood, because I think there were just so many. What were some of yours?
I was just thinking then, well, it's not a child movie, but you know, Spirited Away, that blew my mind when I saw that.
Yeah, that
just because,
definitely.
You know, so like Disney movies can be so formulaic, and this was just like, you know, the fact that I don't know where I saw it, I would have been 18 or something when I saw it, and I could still appreciate it so much.
Yeah, I agree with that. I have to say though, The Little Mermaid was the first movie I kind of saw and appreciated.
Yeah.
Like I think I saw The Jungle Book, or like
I didn't actually appreciate that as much until I was like an adult, like in my 20s.
Oh, as a 7-year-old girl,
I was so scared of the octopus lady.
Oh, it was big. And Jurassic Park.
All right, see, I missed out the whole Jurassic Park thing.
Actually, I have to say Star Wars really probably is the biggest one from my childhood, because they kind of replayed them on TV through the 80s. By then they were sort of they could play them on TV.
I wasn't allowed to see them until I was 12 years old. So
see, I watched them probably starting from about 9 or 10, and I loved Star Wars, or like the three sort of ones that they made first. I really loved them. Yeah, and my dad is a scientist, and he kind of always wanted a boy, and he never got one. And I was quite into science, so we ended up watching lots of sort of science fiction-y type movies together. You know, we watched like Red Dwarf, and we watched Stargate and Blade Runner, and like just pretty much, you know, all of them. So yeah, and Indiana Jones and Back to the Future. I mean, all of those kind of like series were big. All those kind of action, adventure, slightly science fiction-y things I really loved.
But the biggest one that just Yeah, is I don't know, maybe define my childhood in some respect is the original live action Ninja Turtles movie.
Oh, really? I do remember
That movie is so like iconic that I always want to make a movie that's just like it but different, but has the same atmosphere to it. But I don't know if I ever could. It was just like so. It's like the definitive early '90s movie for me. Like
Yeah. It's got that very kind of warm studio feel about it.
yeah,
though,
it's got a
doesn't it?
studio feel. It's set in New York. Like there's those scenes in New York, and when I was a kid, New York was this mythological place. You know, the biggest city, the capital of the world. You know, and you know people you couldn't walk 5 minutes without getting mugged. You know, everyone got mugged in New York, and it felt like this third world almost because it was like this. You know, the rich and the powerful lived there, but also everyone got mugged. Based on this movie, and I don't know, something about that seems so iconic. And obviously I was a big fan of Ninja Turtles when I saw it, so it was like the first movie that I went in being so excited to see, you know. Probably that had something to do with it.
You were pretty into Batman as well. Batman movies.
Not the movies,
Oh, really?
but like the cartoons, animated cartoons I was big into. I literally only saw Batman and you know, I had all the collector's gear, but my mum wouldn't let me see them, so I literally only saw those two Burton Batman's films like 2 years ago. I rented them out on Blu-ray and watched them. So I knew everything all about them, but I'd never actually seen the films. I don't know if there's anything like that. But yeah, it's weird looking back on stuff like that. So what's next? What do you have to do any prep before you go to Scotland?
Well, you know, I guess there's all that general life stuff of going away and moving somewhere for sort of 9 months that we have to sort out. But yeah, I've got to finish this novel that I'm working on because there's another book that I want to write over there while I'm there. And I've been pretty excited about working on it for a while. It's actually been distracting me from the one I'm supposed to be working on. But, you know, I'm trying to commit to finishing projects rather than just starting them. So I've kind of decided to save it as a reward for getting to the end of this project. And so, yeah, I want to be working on that while I'm over there. So, yeah, finishing this book and...
It's pretty good to set a deadline as well.
Yeah, so it's good, you know, it has to be done by July next year.
Yeah.
And... yeah, in terms of prep, I mean, I've been, you know, sort of trying to, you know, contact people over there. So I'll be doing some cool things over there. There's a children's literature organisation over there called 7 Stories, and it's probably one of the largest children's book organisations in the UK. And I'm going to be doing some stuff with them. And they're pretty cool because they do like exhibitions and stuff, and they've got like original like Enid Blyton manuscripts, like her handwritten manuscripts, and you know they've got a lot of original illustrations by you know heaps of amazing illustrators. And you know that's kind of the cool thing about the UK for me is that you know being an English speaking country that doesn't have a very long history, like it's only like 200 years old or something, a lot of our children's literature influences come from the UK. You know, it at least it was the epicenter not long ago of children's literature. And, you know, if you think of all the classic books that you enjoyed, you know, Peter Pan and, you know, Alice in Wonderland and, you know, Oliver Twist or, you know, so many that come and were set in the UK. So it's just going to be great to go there and to sort of, yeah, to just see a lot of the things where they were created and sort of be inspired by that place in terms of developing my own stories as well.
You know, our friend Rebecca, she's actually played with the real Pooh Bear.
Really?
That the story was based on, because I don't know, she grew up in that, while she lived in England when she was a child, their friend was Christopher Robin's. Either she was child friends with Christopher Robin's son or something. I don't know. I don't know how old Winnie the Pooh is, but you know, someone along that line. Someone in Christopher Robin's family tree.
That's really cool.
And that would be kind of weird. And because she lived around there, she got to see, was it the Farthing Wood where it's inspired by?
Yeah.
It's apparently it's amazing, like 1,000-year-old forest that is still sort of very small patches that are intact that you can go and see and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, how can you not be inspired by that? I mean, I draw a lot of inspiration from this place where I've grown up. I mean, this holds all of my own personal childhood memories, but I guess you have that kind of, that sense of folktale mythology that has come down through from the UK, and my mom and my granny, my great granny, all of my mum's family grew up in the UK, and so there's a lot of sort of family stories and family histories that are sort of set there. And so I have to say I've never been more excited than now contemplating having my first white Christmas. Like, I've always had the summer Christmas here in Australia, and even though that is Christmas to me now, like, it's always felt like just some little things missing. And, I just want to have one of those really traditional snowy white Christmases. Snowball fight, snowman, carols, sled ride kind of thing. So, yeah, I guess going back to the mother country.
Have you seen Dogville with Nicole Kidman?
Nope, I haven't.
That was, it was made by, you should watch it, I think you would like it. It was made by Lars von Trier, I think. Hopefully I'm getting that right. And he has never been to America before, but he wanted to make this film trilogy about his impression of America because he's terrified of flying, so he will never go there, and boats. So he will never go there, but he wanted to give his impression of, American art, so he's created this film trilogy of that. I think he's only made 2. I don't know if he'll actually get around to, they'll give him money to make the third one or not, but I've seen the first 2 and they're really cool. But I want to do something like that, because I've never been to America, and I've started writing a treatment of like my idea of America in my head based on all the stuff I've seen and done. I would like to make a TV show, and like that's my if I was going to make a TV series, it would probably be about that.
I mean, it's kind of generally not advisable, and I never recommend to young writers, like, for them to write about things they don't know anything about. But it is also sometimes that thing of place can be done really well in that way. Like the Kamiko books that I wrote, I hadn't actually been to Japan when I wrote that first book. I had been to China. I had travelled through Asia, but it was more the fact that my grandmother was from there. And so everything that I knew about Japan, and she died when I was 6 years old, so I was always really curious, I guess, growing up about her and where she came from. And so everything that I kind of imagined, everything that I had learned about Japan, everything that I wanted to ask her about or liked about where I imagined she came from, I put into that book. So it's a completely fictional story, and it could be kind of culturally inaccurate, but it's kind of my own sort of love letter to Japan a little bit in its setting. And and I kind of have saturated it with a lot of sort of very iconically Japanese things without actually ever saying it's set in Japan. But there are some very sort of iconically Japanese things in there, just because it was enjoyable for me to sort of create that imagined world from something that inspired me. And I guess for you it's the same, having so many films and things that have inspired you. A narrative set in the US, there must be this kind of dream or imagining that you have of that place that could actually be kind of great, because it would be quite very sort of saturated with all these ideas and things that you've collected. So I think
definitely,
maybe it can work.
If I ever got if I ever got the opportunity to go, I would make sure that I would make sure I've written the treatment before I go, so at least I've got my ideas down before I go. But if I get corrupted by the real I mean, there's still probably based more on movies and Hollywoodish stuff like that. Like probably one of the big ones is like The Rocketeer. Like that was like, that was a big movie when I was a kid.
The Rocketeer.
They just had it
I don't even remember what happened in that movie.
Everyone at home, give thanks, Briony, for coming on. You're very privileged to have an award-winning author come speak to you for free. So thanks for helping us out, Briony.
No problems, James.
I have to put this up as a podcast. It's very entertaining.
Yeah, I think we have.
Into the depths of Briony's work as an artist.
And yours, as a writer as well, which you do more often.